Hi, my name is Dan, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the cabin. I'd like to start off with how I bought the cabin back in 2009. I found a listing for the cabin on Craigslist. I called the guy who owned it. He did not have any real estate agents involved at that time. In fact, during the whole process, he told me how to get to the cabin, and so I drove up from Richmond. Took me about 2.5 hours. I liked it, and he said that he had found a law firm in Moorefield, West Virginia, which is the nearest large town to the cabin, and I didn't have a problem using a law firm for the closing. I'd done that before with other pieces of property I'd bought. So first thing I did is I arranged to have a survey of the property done. I had a plat of the subdivision, but I just wanted to verify that the cabin was located far enough from the boundaries, the lot lines and everything, and that everything else checked out with the survey, and it did. So then I gave a check for $2,000 to the law firm as earnest money, which they held in escrow. We just went through whatever else there was to do. I guess there was a title search and all that. But when we did the closing, we did it at the lawyer's office in Moorefield, and they gave us all the documents that you'd get when you normally do a closing on a purchase. We did the title insurance, tax stamps, recording fees, prorated property taxes, all that. And you get the standard HUD form that you use when you buy a piece of property or sell it. When it was over, I talked to the seller, and he said that the only complaint he had with the process of selling it on Craigslist was that people would arrange to come up and see the cabin, and so he would give them directions, and he'd meet them there, and they might have to drive an hour or two or three or maybe 4 or 5 round trip, and the same for him. And they'd get there and they'd find something that for some reason didn't meet their needs, and so basically they both would have spent a long time driving for nothing, and that's the reason for this video. What I'm trying to do here is, you've already probably seen the 5-minute video on YouTube. What I want to do here is basically just give you a walking tour of the property in the cabin, just like you'd get as if you were up there, so that if you see anything that's an issue for you, save us both the drive. I mean, for me, it's at least a 5-hour round trip to Richmond, and depending on where you're coming from, it could be that far. So, like I say, I want to give you a tour. Now, it's going to try to lay out everything you need to know. And for a lot of people, if you're really not that interested in the cabin, you're just kind of browsing. I think after 5 minutes, you're probably going to say that's enough, I don't need to see any more. But if you're really interested, I think the whole video lasts a little over 30 minutes. If you're still interested, I've got a contact number at the end. Give me a call and we'll talk. I'll answer any more questions, and if everything sounds okay, then we can arrange to meet up at the cabin. You can see it in person. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time, and like I say, enjoy the video, but again, if you're not really that interested, it's going to be like watching paint dry. Thanks. We're here in the National Forest. We're about 2 miles off the main highway. As you can see, this is the end of the road right here. We're not on the cabin property. We're on the property next to the cabin. The neighbor's house is right up here. Cabin is back up there. I'm going to walk up to the property line of the cabin where the cabin property starts. When you think subdivision, you probably think of lawns and sidewalks, but this subdivision is not like that at all. It's just a couple of 100 acres that back in the early 2000s were divided up into lots. The utilities are underground, the power and the telephone are underground utilities. These are some of the structures that you see when you're driving up to the cabin. Like I said, that's not exactly what you think of in terms of a subdivision. It's pretty rustic. Most of them are, I guess, probably used as hunting cabins. There are 2 or 3 full-time residents, year-round residents, but the rest of them are just used occasionally, the same way that I've been using the cabin. This is the property line for the cabin. It runs across here. So everything behind me now is on the cabin property. Like I said, this property here belongs to the next door neighbor. I've been coming up here about 15 years. I love it up here. As you can hear, it's pretty quiet. And you're pretty much on your own. This is the end of the road, so there's absolutely no traffic. The only person who ever comes up this far is the guy who lives in this cabin here. We're coming up behind the cabin. This is the back of the cabin. The front of the cabin faces the Lost River Valley on the other side of the ridge. This is the ridge that the cabin's sitting on here. Oh, by the way, this is July 26th. I don't know what the temperature is where you are, but it's about 65 degrees here. It's really gorgeous. For the middle of summer, this is pretty darn good. The white building here is just a shed where I keep the chainsaw and the wood splitter and other tools and various pieces of wood. I think that's a turkey. I don't know if you could hear it or not over the neighbors. Wild turkey. Well, we're up here at the cabin. The shed's right here on the left. And what I think I'll do is I think I'll bring the camera over here, and so you can see kind of the front of the cabin. A little disorienting, I guess, when you move it around too much, but I think you'll get the idea. I bought the log home in 2009. It's a kit that was assembled by a man and his wife. It's made by Conestoga Log Homes of Pennsylvania. It is the Trout Run model modified by Conestoga to add a loft for a total of about 800 square feet. It has been a wonderful place for me to come, just to get away from the noise and the heat of Richmond. Like I said, it was 65 this morning when I started shooting. It's probably not more than 70 or 72 right now. I think you can see that, well, maybe you can't. I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's a ridge. The cabin's sitting on this ridge here, and it runs back that way. And we came up the driveway. It's quite a slope up the driveway, and there's just as big a slope, even a little bit steeper, going down this way. And the property runs like this It's about 100 yards wide from just behind, maybe 20 or 30 feet behind the camera there, to, I don't know if you can see that fallen log way up there in the distance, but it goes just beyond that in width. And then it's, as I recall, it's over 1,000 feet long. Goes from all the way to the bottom of the hill here and then out some, and then goes down there. And the National Forest boundary is at that end. What I'm going to do now is give a close-up of all the various stuff that comes with the cabin. Because it's 2.5 hours to Richmond, over the years, instead of bringing things from Richmond and taking them back, I've just bought extra stuff for the cabin. So basically everything that's here is everything that you need to be here. I've used it all at one time or another during the 15 years I've been here. So first we'll start with the shed. Six-foot ladder, wheelbarrow, a peavey for rolling logs, this Marvin, that's a spare window, the kitchen window. Pileated woodpecker started pecking at the wood, and so I replaced the window, and that window is in perfect shape except it's got some woodpecker pecks in it. So behind it are 4 extra shutters. There are 4 windows that I haven't put shutters on yet. One of them's on the 2nd floor, the other 3 on the ground floor. In the corner there are 2 cases of flooring, laminate flooring, which is what's in the cabin on the ground floor. Then there's a string trimmer or weed eater. This is the ladder that came with the cabin when I bought it. There was no staircase going up to the loft. It just had that ladder. This is the electric wood splitter, log splitter. You'll see there's a lot of lumber, a lot of firewood here that I've split and stacked, and using the peavey and this, and then underneath this table here you can see there's some gasoline and bar oil for the steel 250 chainsaw that's under there. Let's see, there's just some windshield washer fluid. There's a tank sprayer and a backpack sprayer. There's a hose, and that marked stick is for gauging the cistern to see how much water remains in there. There's the tank sprayer, and there's one of these that's full of non-clumping kitty litter for snow, traction in the snow if you need that. And then there's some hardware in another one, and just empty ones. I find that I can always use an empty kitty litter container or 2 just for using it as a sawhorse or whatever. And then there's various bits and pieces that are left over from when the cabin was being built. These 2 pieces here are from the porch, the railings that go on the far end. The guy that built this didn't put the railings on the far end because he put them in front of the front door so that his children wouldn't fall off the front when they came out the front door. And up above, got some tar paper and flexible pipe insulation, and then there's some drain pipe. But lots of miscellaneous stuff in here. Like I say, it's all come in handy at some point in the last 15 years. There's a good bit of firewood, which of course comes in real useful in the winter. I've probably cut and split and stacked 4 or 5 times this much over the years. But like I say, there's a good bit here. This stuff has all been drying for anywhere from 1 to 2 years, so it makes great fuel for the wood stove. The Shelburne wood stove in the cabin. Because it's that new EPA approved wood stove, it really thrives on extremely dry wood. Burns for a long, long time. This is the cistern cover here. I just keep the top of it covered. I'll have a picture of it uncovered at some point on here, but just keeps debris off of it, so when I open it to either have water put in or use the stick to measure the depth, I don't get a bunch of junk in there. The water's nice and clean. It all comes from, it's municipal water from Broadway or Timberville in Virginia. That's where the water is usually trucked in from. Here's some more. These are kind of odds and ends here for the firewood. Odd shapes that are hard to stack. And then there's some more up here. This is where, before the winter comes, I move it up here so that these two racks are completely full. That way, whenever I need firewood, I don't have to go out in the snow or rain or whatever. I just open the door and get it here and take it in, and it stays dry. Under here's a kindling and whatever that I use in the stove for small bits and pieces. Now for a tour of the cabin. You can see there's lights hanging there. I've got a remote control that turns them on. They go around both sides and the back. I don't have them on the front, but I like those at night a lot better than having those bright floodlights. When you want to see if anybody's out there, keep an eye on the wildlife or whatever, you turn those on. It gives a nice warm glow around the cabin. Anyway, we'll just walk around the cabin so you can see what it looks like. It's open underneath, easy access. I've got some lumber stored under there, which the guy who built the place left here, and it's still in good shape. It's been dry and off the ground. Here we are. It's around the back. Oh, let me show you the back here. You see the cistern there. They had a backhoe when they put that cistern in, and it dug a trench straight from that gray cover you see in front there, straight toward the camera, down, and then the trench came along the back of the cabin here. I don't know if it's 4 feet deep, at least 4 feet deep to get below the freeze line. And then it comes up through that black flex tubing there. It's wrapped with heat tape. So that's where it goes into the cabin. And then the small gray tube there is the telephone, underground again, and then the heavier gray pipe is the, I can't remember if it's 100 amp or 200 amp circuit breaker in there, I'll check. But and there are also 2 drains down here for draining that red pipe, and that's the hot. And then there's another one on the right, back under there, white one, that's for the cold water. So you can drain the pipes in the winter. And then here's a connection, a freeze-proof connection for the outdoor hose, if you need to use a hose. Which again, I find all this stuff comes in handy at some point or the other. And then this is the far side of the cabin. The blue tape on the windows looks kind of tacky, but I found that the reason the pileated woodpeckers were pecking at that kitchen window is they could see their reflection in there. And by putting that blue tape on there, it keeps the pileated woodpeckers, I guess they recognize that it's not another woodpecker, and so they just leave it alone. And that's the loft window up there. You'll see when we go inside, the computer desk is in front of that window, and so when you're sitting up there, you're looking out that window. All the windows are screened. They're all double pane, and they all open easily. They have cranks. They're all Marvin windows, which is a really good brand of window. The company that made this Conestoga, they didn't go cheap on any of the materials in this cabin. I'll give you a link to their website and you can read all about their cabins. Again, this is the Trout Run model. It originally was just a one-story, and the people that built it asked them if they would add a second story, which again, they have architects and engineers that design all this, and so they fabricated a second story loft up there. And let's go on down here. The only thing worth seeing here is this is where the drain going to the septic tank is located. It comes out from under the cabin there, goes underground right here, and then the septic tank that's the pipe for, I guess, clean out or gauging or whatever there. And the septic field, I've got a diagram that shows exactly where it goes, so you don't drive a vehicle over it. But the septic field goes out here past that double set of trees there and takes a left turn, then comes back, does a U. I'm sorry, it goes to the first set of double trees and takes a left and comes back. Now let's turn around and go back, look at the cabin again from this angle. Again, the lights are on both ends in the back, but not the front. And underneath here, I can't remember if this is an 18, I think it's a 21-foot extension ladder under here. I've got it cabled, locked to the cabin itself, but nobody's ever been up here and bothered anything. I've also got an electric outlet here, and then there's another one over by the steps going in. So you have electricity on the outside. That's how I run the splitter. I have I think it's 12 gauge, which is an extremely, by the way, you can see how much access there is under here. There we go. I crawl under there a lot of times spraying for bugs. I just spray several times a year just to make sure there aren't any bugs. But coming on around here is the steps going in. If you see in the center there, right in front of the front door, those two rails there, you can see they're fixed with two vertical posts. The way this was originally designed, there's supposed to be a staircase put in there coming straight down here for the front entrance. And the guy that built it decided he'd rather have the steps off to the side. And so he put the end rails that go down there at that end, he put them here. But again, there's another set in the garage or in the shed there if you ever decide you want to put steps coming down this way. I've often thought that I'd have a dozer come in here and flatten this and put gravel down and make a parking area right in front here. Anyway, let me go on around here. And I guess the only thing to see here, forgot to mention it when we were here before, you can't, well, I guess you can just barely see the cover sticking down, but underneath there is the other electrical outlet. You can see the gray cover there, that's an electrical outlet. So you have two on the outside of the cabin. There's actually one around back that the heat tape is using, so you've got three, but as I recall, there's probably a spare outlet there. You usually have two. So anyway, that's it for outside. This is the living room and kitchen of the cabin. There's a lazy boy recliner, an end table next to the chair, recliner there. On the end table by the sofa, there's a remote control for the outside lights. It's a two-cushion sofa or love seat. It's leather. Over there in the corner is a Hearthstone Shelburne cast iron wood stove lined with fire brick. Thing weighs about 400 pounds. It's fantastic. It uses very little wood and gives off a lot of heat. The chest there, I keep blankets in there. Underneath the TV there is a box that I keep the wood stove supplies in. The TV is a Sony high definition TV with a Panasonic Blu-ray DVD player underneath it. And that cabinet there is full of DVDs. There's also a sound system. It's got 2 speakers on the wall and a subwoofer on the floor there. This kitchen table has 4 chairs. 2 are here, and then there's one upstairs in the loft and one over by the refrigerator. On the table here, there's a remote control for the Hunter fan overhead. There's another Hunter fan in the loft. In the kitchen, there's a GE range, coffee maker, toaster oven, double sink, a toaster and a microwave oven, and a GE refrigerator freezer. And then going over toward the stairs to the loft, there's the other chair from the dining room table. There's a cordless phone, lots of storage space underneath the stairs here, lots of books in the bookcase, all sorts of stuff, fiction, nonfiction, reference. This is a propane gas log stove, which I only use when it gets really, really cold. And I mean really cold. I've been up here when it was 9 below zero, and I had this and the wood stove going, but I don't normally need to use the gas log stove. There's a tank of propane behind the stove, and there's another spare tank behind the bookcase. And then there's there's a fire extinguisher there, and coat rack here. Another coat rack my brother-in-law made on the wall there, and then there's a hat rack here. Now let's go on in the bedroom. Let's see, open the door. The bedroom, 2 end tables, queen size bed. Let's see, chest of drawers, quite tall. 2 chairs, they're both folding chairs. If I need more space, I can just fold them up and move them. And then the closet is my design. It takes up less space than a closet with walls and a door would. There is more space upstairs or in the bathroom if I need more closet space, but this serves me well. And by the way, the red things there are chainsaw chaps you wear while you're using a chainsaw. Give you a lot of protection so you don't cut your leg off. Anyway, that's the bedroom. A couple of wall sconces up there. Before we go in the bathroom, I might point out that the white thing on the wall there is a carbon monoxide detector, and there's also a smoke detector up at the top of the stairs going to the loft. Let's go in the bathroom now. It's quite a large bathroom. It's a very large bathroom, in fact. Here we have the toilet, a closet, a little table. On the left, we have the shower stall, and a large sink with storage space underneath, 6 drawers and a cabinet. Let's go on over here. In this closet here, I have power tools, hand tools, spare parts, hardware, all sorts of stuff. If I need more closet space, I can move that stuff out to the shed, but I don't really need any more closet space. Here we have what I call the submarine control room. Pretty complicated looking, but it's not that complicated really. Bottom left here we have a baseboard heater. I keep the bathroom in the winter between 35 and 40 degrees to keep the door closed, and this is the only heat in the cabin, and it keeps the water in the toilet tank and the hot water heater from freezing. I turn off the hot water heater, but it doesn't freeze because the room stays above freezing. And I should clarify that when I mention the baseboard heater and keeping the bathroom at 35 to 40 degrees, since that's the only heat in the cabin, I'm talking about when I leave to go back to Richmond in the winter. When I leave in the winter, of course, the wood stove's not on, so the bathroom is the only heated room when I'm gone. When I'm here, I turn off that baseboard heater, it's not on now, and I leave the bathroom door open, and the wood stove keeps the temperature in here just fine. On the left, there's the circuit breaker panel with the gray pipe underneath is where the electric comes in. The black pipe just to the right of it at the bottom, that's where the water supply comes in from outside. Up there in the center between the circuit breaker panel and the hot water heater, that's a whole house water filter. Filters out sediment and odors. There's another one underneath the kitchen sink that has a carbon filter in it for drinking water, very fine filter. You can drink any of it because it's from any of the faucets because it's all municipal water, chlorinated and clean, but this one just makes sure there's no sediment at all in it. That blue thing over the hot water heater, if you're not familiar with cisterns, that's an expansion tank that maintains pressure on the water system. The submersible pump in the cistern pumps water up into there through that whole house filter, and then that maintains anywhere from 60 psi down to 40 psi, and when it gets down to 40 psi, the submersible pump comes on and takes it back up to 60 again, so you've always got plenty of water pressure. Again, it's a very large bathroom, completely equipped and very comfortable. I've got a portable electric heater that I use in here in the winter so that I can just heat the bathroom up real quickly if the wood stove, this is at the far end of the cabin from the wood stove, so it's generally cooler in here, and in the morning when I come in the bathroom, I just close the door, turn on that electric heater, and within 10 minutes it's up to 70 degrees in here, very pleasant. Now we'll go up and take a look at the loft. Holding the camera and trying not to tumble. Here we go. Yeah, there we are. That's the door to the porch. There's the stove and the TV and the table and the kitchen area. And the staircase itself. I don't know if you remember, but out in the shed there was a ladder that was used to get up in the loft here. I had this staircase custom made by some craftsmen here in Hardy County, West Virginia. I laid out the plans and they built it to spec. Small table here. And the first thing we notice is two twin beds or single beds, and they are extra long. These mattress and box springs and the one in the master bedroom, the queen size, all come from the original mattress factory, which is the highest rated mattresses according to Consumer Reports. Let's see, what else do we have? We have the Dell computer, flat screen monitor, and HP LaserJet printer, an office chair, obviously. Let's see, around here we have, that's a clothes rack I used before I built the closet downstairs. Here we have a table with a lot of my natural history collection from out in the woods here. And there's an AM/FM stereo amplifier under there with stereo speakers. Over here we have, again, that table. There's the fourth kitchen chair and a vacuum cleaner. And let's see, when you're sitting at the computer, this is the view you have out the window. If you remember, I put the blue tape on there to keep the pileated woodpeckers from pecking at the window frames. I enjoy just sitting here. You can, as far as you can see, is this property. The property line's at the very top of the ridge, as far as you can see there.